Welcome to the Business and Leadership Channel. My name is Michelle Boulay, and I'm so honored to be a sponsor here at this amazing conference because it's my passion to help you connect to your own inner leader and let that transform the businesses and relationships you create. I'm a life coach and healer and an internationally recognized award-winning dance artist. And dancing taught me to listen to my own inner voice and let that guide me to my success. A very common thing that happens for business owners, creatives, and leaders is that you're so close to your next goal or breakthrough and then you stop. Doubt kicks in, worry, procrastination, fear, overwhelm, which kill growth in your business and creative process. So I'm giving a talk here on Saturday, October 24th, where you'll learn tools so that you can show up with clarity and belief in yourself and your ideas, consistency to keep showing up, and the embodied and intellectual understanding to move you gracefully through the challenges you'll meet as you grow, as you go for your goals. If you can't make it live, pick up your phone now, go to Instagram or Facebook, find me, follow me, and DM me the word success, and I'll send you the free resource I'll be sharing at my presentation. It's also in the show notes. However, I do recommend you attend live here or at my main stage presentation to get the full scope of what I'll be sharing to help you realize your creative dreams. And now, please enjoy this next presentation.
Welcome, Karen Skehel. Since 2002, as a leadership and personal coach, Karen Skehel has helped hundreds of clients achieve happiness, wellness, and success with her compassion-focused approach. A childhood history of being unwanted and unloved, and having experienced the mental health suffering that this generated, has inspired Karen to develop an integrated program of compassion-focused practice to turn suffering into flourishing. She offers compassion-focused leadership coaching and a repertoire of compassion-focused well-being initiatives, compassion-focused mind-body mindfulness, and compassion-focused movements and music. There's also self-compassion-focused integrated workshops. These are just a few of the things that Karen offers. Many have testified to the positive impact on their well-being through joining Karen's self-compassion-focused sessions. Karen also has a number of claims to fame. She has coached in front of millions on the UK's most popular daytime programme. She has also showcased her compassion-focused movement to music on TV on BBC One, and as far afield as TV in South Korea in a documentary on dance in therapy. Today, Karen helps organisations to improve productivity and reduce mental health. And she does this with a fully integrated compassion-focused programme, which includes both compassion-focused leadership coaching and compassion-focused wellbeing initiatives. And on that note, I'd like to hand you over to the lovely Karen.
Thank you so much. So what I would like to share with people before we start is inviting you into a self-compassion way of being in this session. So is it useful for you to look at the screen? Is it useful to look out the window, to lie down, stand up, sit down, move around? What is a compassion-focused way for you to be in this webinar? I'm going to show you some slides in a minute as I talk you through. So it might be useful for you to look at the slides. It might be useful for you to close your eyes, just tuning in for a moment. How can I be with myself and be with this session in a way that's going to be most self-serving? So let's put on the first slide, Abby, if we can. And I want to, many of you I haven't met, maybe there's some of you that I have met, and whether we've met or not, I have a sense that we have some things in common. For example, I'm imagining that you have a part of you that can be critical and judgmental of yourself and others at times. I'm imagining too that you have a part of you that can feel scared and can feel angry. I'm imagining that you have a part that sometimes can feel incompetent, inadequate, without confidence, lacking in confidence. We all have that. I assume it's not just me. And we all have, don't we, a compassionate self that can be really compassionate. We often find it easier to be compassionate to others than we do to ourselves. So that is my experience. Is that your experience? Is that how you are as a human being? You can write in the chat anytime you'd like to. So let me ask you, as a starting point, how are you feeling in this moment? Maybe take a breath. How am I feeling? And you can give yourself a score out of 10, 10 being the top, 0 being the bottom. Or you can give yourself an emotional description. So Geeta's looking at following the chat. But just take a moment, maybe close your eyes. How am I feeling? Ask yourself that question, taking a breath. And you can share. I'm seeing if I can see the chat. Yeah, I can. So just to know how you're feeling, write it in the chat if you wish, or simply know how you're feeling. And the purpose of this is to know how you're feeling is, if you like, step 1 in being able to offer compassion to yourself, because compassion to others starts with compassion to self. And from that place, we can then respond to ourselves. Am I feeling a little nervous? What can I do? Yeah, I can soothe my chest, as an example. Or what do I need in this moment? So this is really about an ongoing, if you like, relationship with yourself. So I'm going to share with you what we're going to do this session, so you know what's coming up. So we're going to go in a moment into looking really and asking ourselves the question, what really is compassion? What is self-compassion? From there, we're going to move into what are the benefits of compassion? How is it useful for us? And then third, we're going to go into some starting points of how we can bring more self-compassion into ourselves as a practice, how we can bring more compassion to others, but it would always is a big word, normally, typically, start with ourselves. So let's move on to the next slide. And yeah, I'm just checking if people can hear me. I just saw a note saying, oh, you can hear me. Okay, great. So what is self-compassion? And there are many different definitions. Like you ask any question, there are always many different answers. But I'm going to start with these 3. For me, these are important answers to that question. And the very simple answer is about being kind to yourself. And there are so many different ways of doing that. And we'll go into that in a piece. But in general, as a theme, we want to be kind. And we want to notice if we're being judgmental. And the piece is, the more kind we are to ourselves, the more often we're kind to ourselves, the less likely. It's just a habit, like every way of being. Moving on to the second point, which is remembering that, as I shared with you at the beginning, and you know this, yeah, we're all part of humanity. We all have the same sufferings, not at the same time necessarily, but we all feel the pains of being human. And what I like about that is, if I'm suffering some pain, I like that I'm not alone with it. It's not just me. We all feel like that. Whenever I'm going through any life challenge, I like to be part of a group that's having the same life challenge. I'm thinking, that's it. I'm in the club of this particular life challenge, whatever it might be. That's one way of dealing with it, but also just stopping thinking, I've got this painful thing going on. but I'm not the only one. I'm with everybody else. We're all in it together, and that's I find that a helpful piece. And the third piece of self-compassion that I find really useful is this piece about having that optimum balance of dealing with feelings when they come up. So, for example, if we hear that somebody close to us has some really painful, let's say, critical illness, and how we might respond to that, what we might feel would be typical human response would be sadness, maybe anger, maybe pain. But to allow ourselves to feel those feelings so that we can bring compassion to ourselves. And as we do so, we're not being overwhelmed. The typical human condition may, as a protector, suppress. I don't want to feel those feelings, so I'm going to suppress them. It's not on a conscious level, but it's how the human being can go, or being overwhelmed by them. But here's the secret, and you know this, many of you. The secret is to allow yourself to feel the feelings and bring compassion to that. And then you will find that they're not overwhelming, they move. It's about welcoming them in and loving the feelings. Abby, let's move on to the next slide. And this is really looking at some of the benefits that we can have. So I'm going to just briefly touch on these. And I always talk about compassion, and self-compassion is really something that can and does, not can, but does help us with everything that comes up. So if we practice self-compassion, what we find is we just feel more happy more often. It just happens. And if we have a predisposition, which a great percentage of us do, to depression and anxiety, that this starts to decrease or really disappear altogether just through the practice of self-compassion. And as we start to replace this critical voice that we all have with a compassionate voice, that critical voice just isn't really there, just doesn't get a chance, so to speak. Again, our resilience grows, which means we bounce back more quickly from difficulties. We can just bounce back. We're less impacted by the stressful things that happen for us. In the workplace, our relationships are enhanced. In life, our relationships are enhanced. But in projects, we can collaborate more effectively. We can cooperate more effectively. And if we're around people who are also practicing self-compassion, that really makes a much more pleasant, enjoyable, effective way of working. For those of us, and I'm one of them, who have a history of having, I'm an ex-workaholic, so definitely someone who has experienced burnout. It's quite a common thing, this burnout. But as we practice self-compassion, we just don't do it. We just don't overwork. So we know, and we're more productive and effective for our employers, because anyone who's overworking is not working effectively. And in the other pieces of the workplace, what we find is we're practicing self-compassion. We're in an organization where compassion and self-compassion is practiced. We have this wonderful sense of belonging and fitting in. And that in itself is very uplifting. And our general attitude is one of happiness and joy, peacefulness, enthusiasm. And we just feel that closeness with other people. It's just, of course I'm biased, but I'm inviting you to be biased as well. It's just a must do. So Abby, if we can move on, I'm just going to give us some examples. I've pulled out some examples of suffering. Maybe you close your eyes for a moment and ask yourself, maybe you don't have to look too far, what's an example of suffering that I have experienced recently? And just bring that up. And then just opening your eyes and having a look. Maybe it's on my chart. But just listing some of the, as human beings, we're probably all familiar with the forms of suffering that comes to us, don't they, as human beings, of which there are many. And yeah, so just to kind of run through what those ones are for us. Typical ones for us, I talked about feeling unskilled, inadequate, incompetent, just pulling out some of them. This lack of motivation. Common thing, isn't it? This believing I'm not good enough. I'm not going to show up. I'm not going to do a good job. Some other times that compassion, we need compassion is the kind of things that we do to cope is just not working for us. Or we're going through some stuff, can't focus. Our thoughts are all over the place. We're feeling disorganized, stressed, anxious, depressed. You know it. Everybody knows it. These are times to practice self-compassion. And here's a secret. If we practice self-compassion as a preventative, and that's where ideally we want to get to, then these sorts of experiences happen less and less, even to the point that they can just pretty well disappear. So let's move on, Abby, to the next slide. And I want to talk about how we can bring more compassion into our lives and how to lead with compassion. So the first piece is through coaching. And coaching is normally a process that is, you can self-coach, but it's also a really useful process to work with a coach on. Or in a group, and I'll talk about the coaching process in a moment. And that part of the coaching process is also to help you. One of the joys of being coached is you have an accountability partner. I love lots of aspects about that. So that is to help you stay engaged with the compassion-focused well-being initiatives that you choose, and also to help you stay, if you like, accountable to practicing it in your day-to-day relationship with yourself and in your day-to-day relationship with those people you might come into contact with. So let's move on into the next slide. What I'm showing you here is some examples of some goals that I have created over the years with clients. So when I start with clients in a coaching program, the first question that I will ask them is, what would you love to happen in your life? And here I'm looking typically at a personal compassion-focused goal, and I'm also looking at in the working space a business or leadership compassion-focused goal. And so the questions that I would ask is, what would you love to happen? And then we work together, and how inspiring is that out of 10 for you to have that happen? And if it's not a 10, what's missing? How can you make it more inspiring? And let's play around with those words until we have something that's a 10 for inspiration. And what I've learned, and I'm imagining many of you know this too, that when you have a goal or an outcome or a focus or an intention, whatever word you like to use, that is inspiring. It's powerful. It has energy of its own. It brings forward the outcome. And I can think of times where I've worked with clients where we've just created a goal or an outcome or an intention. They said, can't believe it. I didn't do anything. And this or this happened. Because I call it, if you like, sometimes it's focusing the universe. You create it, you write it down. So for those of you, I'm going to read out a couple just in case some of you can't see that. So a couple of personal ones. that scored 10 for the individual clients. This is a piece of co-creation, is happy with how I am and how I feel. Might add to that, totally or completely happy with how I feel and how I am. The next one, personal one, I totally believe in myself. On the leadership one, the first one on my list is to feel happy, authentic being me as a compassion-focused MD. And the next one is to bring the best of myself into all situations. So those are just some examples. We can get really creative, but ultimately the most important thing is that we have something, that you have something that for you is a 10. So that is so inspiring for you. Moving on to the next part of my coaching program, as we move on to the next slide, Abby, thank you. It is a visioning process. There are many different ways that I work with visioning, one-to-one, or, and this is a really fun way of doing it, I've also run visioning workshops, with visioning days, and I'll just share this because this is something you can do yourself as well, or you can do, you know, it's something that we could do or you could do. So several different activities we do in this. The first thing is, it's really bringing your inspiring outcome, intention, or goal in the area of self-compassion or compassion to life. And we do this through, first thing would be writing a story or a page or a poem or a newspaper article, whatever it might be, a piece of writing, where you connect with how you'd like to feel inside as well. So, and you bring the future into the present just through the simple act of writing. And I found actually that alone is hugely powerful. Again, if you like, you're working with the higher realms, the universe, if you like, on that as well. But that's not the only piece of the visioning work. The other pieces are, you can produce a piece of artwork, a piece of imagery, which you can do, and whether you're an artist or not, you can do a collage cut out of a magazine, put onto a nice A3 piece of card, and you have this beautiful vision, and you put it on your wall, and you can see it, and the universe can see it as well. Or an art, or a painting, or a drawing. And then from an embodiment perspective, we also we use movement and music. I like to use the expression dance awake your vision, so you feel it in the body, so you move as from a place of feeling full of self-compassion. You move from a place of giving out a lot, and we can give out when we were allowed to be together, but we will be together again. We can give out compassion, and then you're creating this beautiful if you like, circle of compassion. As you give, you receive. So you're building up an energy of compassion. So really what we want to do is really be in an environment where this is part of of our creation. Invite your friends to practice self-compassion with you. Invite your colleagues. Make this a mission for those around you, your family. How can we be together practicing this? And from a coaching perspective, to say a little bit more about that before we move on, where we're going to is looking at, where am I being already? Where am I being self-compassionate? Where am I being compassionate? And doing more of that. Where am I already doing this? Where am I not? What's the missing pieces for me? What am I not doing? And then we're also looking at, what are the blocks? What's stopping me? What are my inner obstacles that are stopping me being practicing this? Does it feel stupid? Do people think I'm you know, does it seem mad? What might, you know, there's lots of exploration. So that's all part of a coaching discovery. So I'm going to move on from here to look at or take you into an experience of some practices. And I have developed many different practices that are embodied. I guess most of them are embodied, actually. Embodied self-compassion practices that I offer. And what I would like to do with you is 2 practices. So the first one that I'm going to do with you, or I'm going to invite you to do, is it draws from the loving kindness meditation, but it's a different slant on it. And then we're going to go after this directly into a movement piece that I'm going to invite you to use. There's a piece of music that Geeta, I think, will put in the chat for you. So what I'm going to invite you to do for the moment is just to have the last piece of chat until we go into the next piece of chat. So Geeta, if you can put that in, we don't need it yet, but to have it ready, and so that we can go into it. And I will give you the if you like, I will say when. But I'm going to invite you to settle back into your chair or lie down. And I'm going to invite you to close your eyes if you're comfortable closing your eyes, but have them open. And take a breath. And I'd like you to bring into the room a being in your life, human being or an animal, someone or an animal that's easy for you to love. And they can be alive now, or maybe they're no longer alive, they've moved on. Just allowing yourself to connect with this being, reminding yourself, remembering how much you feel for this being, how much you love them. And maybe they come into the room, maybe they can put their hand on your shoulder, maybe they give you a hug, maybe they sit on your lap, maybe you sit on their lap, maybe you hold hands, maybe you look into each other's eyes. And as you connect, just allowing yourself to remember how much love you feel for this being, or maybe several beings. And opening up your heart a little more and pouring your love into this person or this animal. Or maybe it's an imaginal being. And as you do so, just saying to this being these words: may you be well. May you be free from suffering. May you feel peaceful. And opening up your heart and sending love even more to this animal or this person or this imaginary being. And have that love come right back, boomeranging back into your heart and sending it out again. And having it boomeranging back into your heart. And maybe place your hands on your heart and just feel into that love. And taking a breath. And gently letting that go for a moment, having this being stay by close. And I'd like you to bring into your consciousness a quality within yourself that you like, you appreciate, maybe you even love. Can be a quality, can be a part of yourself, can be a behavior. Whatever comes up, the first thought or even the second thought, it's okay. Have two, have three. I invite you to feel into your body. Where is this showing up in your body? This lovely quality that you have. You like this quality, you appreciate it, you're grateful you have this. Maybe it's showing up in your heart, maybe it's somewhere else. Just maybe place your hand where you can feel it in your body. Maybe you can invite it to manifest as an image in the room or outside in your imagination. Allowing it to be a separate being for the moment from you. This quality, you like this quality, you appreciate this about yourself. Have it show up as an image, just noticing where it is. So either it's an image, or it's in the body, or it's both, or in some way, shape or form. It's a little separate from you, or a lot separate from you. And I invite you to open up your heart, and again, pouring in the love from your heart into this lovely quality that you are, this beautiful, gorgeous quality that you have. Pouring in that love to this quality and having it boomerang right back into your heart, and have it pouring out from your heart back into the quality, or the part, or the behavior, and then back right into your heart. And again, placing your hand on your heart, both hands, and feeling into that beautiful, compassionate love. And having a little wriggle around. And now I'd like you to bring into your consciousness quality you have that you like less. Maybe you secretly wish you just didn't have this quality. Maybe you really, really hate this quality of yourself. We've all got them, but I invite you to be open to the notion that even if you don't like this part, this behavior, this quality, it's also there to serve you. It's there for that reason, protecting you, serving you. But simply being open to that notion. But as you connect with that quality you don't like, see if you can feel it in your body somewhere. Where is it showing up? Maybe it's in your throat. Maybe it's in your belly. Could be in your legs. Could be anywhere. And gently placing your hand where it's showing up, wherever it is. And you can also invite it to manifest as a separate image in the room, in your imagination, wherever it is. And connecting back to your own loving heart, that loving side of yourself, and pouring in your love to that part of yourself that you're not keen on, that you don't like, maybe you even hate. This part is crying out for your love. So really inviting you to pour in your love to this part. Pouring in your love and having it boomerang back right to you. And from your heart, boomeranging right out to this quality, this part. Maybe this part is so appreciating, maybe wanted nothing more than to receive your love. and your compassion. And you can say these words to this pot. May you be well. May you be free from suffering. And may you feel peaceful. And having a little wriggle around. And I'm going to invite you now to choose either the quality that you really appreciate in yourself, or the quality that you don't like, dislike, hate. Choose one. I'm going to invite you to find the piece of music that Geeta has put into the chat. Get it lined up for yourself. You can click on the link, but don't start it quite yet, because what I'd like to invite you to do is to hold this part in your arms as if you were holding a young baby. So let me show you on the screen. Yeah. So you're just holding this part in your arms, and I'm going to invite you to gently rock this part. And I'm going to invite you to hum, if you like, if you're open, and gently soothe, nurture. And this song you may know, you may remember from your childhood, if you have children. You may have sung to your children or played. So I'm wondering if we might all do this together. Maybe if we can do this on a 3, and I'm guessing that what we'll need to do, including me, is mute ourselves. So I'm going to see if I can play this so I know. So let's rock. So gently taking a breath. Allowing in all that beautiful love into your heart. Mic open.
Are you okay there, Karen?
I'm just adjusting the technology here. So, yeah. And here we have to offer some compassion to technology. And here we have to offer some compassion to YouTube. But from here, I'm going to invite you all to connect again to the love in your heart and just feel it coming in. And notice how you're feeling. And what I want to share is, I've led these meditations many times, and it's having this collective, the power of the collective. I'm curious how many people felt into the heart, felt the love flowing. I myself, as a leader of this, found myself really moved to tears in leading this in this moment. And that's the power of us being here together as a collective. So I just wanted to share about the benefits of that particular piece. I'm curious how everyone found it, but we'll have a chat in a moment. What I want to share with you, if we can move Abby into the next slide. So I do have for you, I've prepared a guide, which is 7 proven self-compassion practices, how and when to use them. And you can pick that up if you go. You'll have an opportunity at the end to pick this up from my LinkedIn profile. And so you can learn, or you can join me. I do many of these practices live. And what I'm reflecting on here, and Geeta and Abby, you can guide me, because I'm going to move into a completion. So I was going to share how people can do more with me, but what I'm wondering is if we want to open the space for some questions at this point, and then we can do that at the end. It seems to make sense. Does that make sense, Geeta?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you, Karen, and thank you so much for that really enlightening and heartfelt presentation. I've noticed that we have had, a few comments, and we have a question. For example, we have B. Ruth in Switzerland, who said that they've made a sticky note and it now hangs on their computer with the phrase "compassion to others starts with compassion to self," which I thought was lovely.
Yeah, it does. Very accurate, completely true.
And we actually have one question here. Virada, I will come back to you, because we actually have a question here from Sonia. And Sonia, if you're okay for me to read it out, what I will do is address this to Karen. So Sonia says, thank you, Sonia. The hardest things I have experienced as a leader have been when there have been disciplinary issues, for example, bullying and inappropriate behaviour, or not working to the required level. So Sonia's asking, how do you advise balancing the potential legal impacts of disciplinary processes with being compassionate?
That's an interesting one, isn't it? Because, yeah, there's 2 pieces there, isn't there? What what I know is when someone is behaving badly, as in bullying, if you like, that is a sign of their own suffering. So we only behave badly as human beings when we're suffering. So that part of them that is suffering, and that is a sign of their suffering. They probably were bullied as a child or had some kind of abuse as a child. So they need, that part of them is needing support. That's their human self, if you like. We can call it their wounded child. That part is needing support for that. And then there is also, they also know, because they're doing a job of work, that that isn't, they cannot continue. We cannot continue to chop up small children, whatever it is. I mean, using that as an extreme version. So they also have a part of them that knows that it's not an acceptable ongoing way of behaving. So, I mean, there are many ways of dealing with it. It's the starting point. Can we support them so that they can change that behavior? And that would really be, as a compassionate being, and I'm sure you're here, you have a desire to be, and I'm sure you are a compassionate being, that would be the starting point. Can we do everything we can to support them in their wounding? Whether we do that as a leader of in an organization, or whether we can signpost them to some therapeutic support that can support them to make a change. And then and there's every reason why that can work with the right support. And the last case, the last choice in this, for me, it's all about your personal approach, isn't it? Is that you have to go down that disciplinary, but there's also, is there a compassionate way of saying to them, don't you? Because speaking to that part of them that knows that isn't an okay way of being, and that this is potentially where we would need to go if we, but let's trust that we won't get to that point. So that's just one approach. Hope that's of some use.
Lovely. Right, thank you. And Vered, I hope I've pronounced your name properly. We have a question saying, when would you practice this? Would you practice this every day?
Yes, is the answer. Well, I mean, it depends what you mean by this. That every moment of every day is an opportunity to practice self-compassion. Anything that happens, as you saw, the video that I played, I didn't set it up so I could practice self-compassion in that moment. But the actual practices that I did, yes, I find them more effective in groups, so I do them in groups. Some people can do them by themselves and find them effective. I find them more effective in groups. So the more you do it, the better it gets. Like any practice, practice makes. We never get to perfect as human beings, but it definitely enhances our ability to be compassionate.
Thank you, Karen. We've actually got a couple of comments, and Vered says, thank you so much, that was wonderful. B. Ruth in Switzerland says, NVC, nonviolent communication, and then quotes, anger is a tragic expression of an unmet need. Any comments on that?
Yeah, I do. Funnily enough, I had something in my life that really triggered anger before this session. They're not connected to that. So I really work with my anger. And this is an anger at another person, but I work with it internally. So I really expressed, somebody had really behaved in a way that really bugged me. And so in a compassionate way to myself was to express that anger, to really get into the energy of that anger and go, no, it's not okay to treat me in that way. So that is a form of compassion to myself. And then I can choose how and when I want to express that anger, how I feel, my feelings to that other person. But the most important thing, this is my map of the world, is to feel the emotion myself, and then bring compassion, because there's a part of me that goes, I'm sharing compassion. It's not okay for me to be angry. I'm my purpose is to be a compassionate being. But then I step into, but I know human beings feel angry, and it's compassionate to give that anger expression in a way that's, and then I can speak in an emotionally literate way to the person about the issue. I hope that's of some help.
Thank you, Karen. We have one other question. How can you instill compassion, and this is from Ariel, how can you instill compassion in others towards yourself if you feel you are treated very harsh?
How can you get others to behave compassionately, in a sense? Yeah, is that that's what the question is?
I can repeat that. So it's, how can you instill compassion in others?
Okay. Here's the thing. We can, our biggest area of influence is ourselves. So we're dealing with the human race here, hey? And we know, don't we, that the human race is a mixture, isn't it, of love and the opposite. So, but what we can find is we can respond to ourselves in a compassionate way. If we're being treated harshly by another, then that is their pain, their wounding. Quite like sometimes the notion, again, it draws from the loving kindness meditation of sending love to the other person. There's also a dialogue, if you like. Can we enroll, or how can we enroll others? Because it's not just me behaving compassionately, or you, Gita, or Abby. It is us being be the change you want to see in the world. Is that Gandhi? Yeah. It's us enrolling other people in that practice. And it doesn't mean that we don't sometimes behave like, this is an American expression, jerk. We don't have that here, do we? But you know what I mean? And of course, but, you know, and then we can be compassionate to ourselves by behaving like that. We can be compassionate to the other. But how can we enroll other people in the value of becoming more compassionate? This must be the subject of another workshop, another webinar, because I think it's a really important question. I'd love to get everybody's ideas on that, because yeah, we can talk about how it's beneficial for us. We can ask them how it would be beneficial for them. We can get them to experiment with it. Be the change you want to see in the world.
Thank you, Karen. Yes, and that would be a very, very interesting webinar. On that note, I'd like to thank Karen once again. And dear attendees, I'd like to remind you that you can watch Karen's webinar again. It's up for replay for the next 48 hours. And the next session after Karen's is Embodying the Future, Why the Body is Key to Leading from the Field, and that's by Peter Merry. We also have coffee breaks, which can be accessed from the portal. And if you'd like to continue this discussion, please join the Facebook groups. Hopefully there'll be a link in the chat there so that you can actually access those groups. Remember once again that these webinars are actually available for 48 hours for free. However, if you're anything like me, and I've worked in education for over 30 years, I firmly believe in lifelong learning, and both at a personal and a professional level. And in that case, you may feel that you'd like to actually own the library, purchase this tech conference package, so you can actually watch Karen's webinar and all the many other wonderful webinars to digest in your own time. You may also want to purchase it because it's a way of thanking us for actually putting this conference on. And if you do purchase this conference package. It does actually enable everybody who's not in a position to be able to buy to access it for free whilst it's live. So on that note, I'd like to thank you all very again for attending. It's been a lovely, lovely session. And to finish off, Karen, could we please have your own top tip in terms of how to be more embodied?
So yeah, discover, find the compassion-focused embodiment practices that you like, that work for you. Find the structure and discipline to ensure that you do them, and love doing them as part of your life, and love reaping the benefits. So yeah, and people want to copy anything from the chat, they can contact me from LinkedIn. They can email me, my details are there, or you can look me up and I guess I will appear on the internet. I want to thank you, Geeta. Thank you, Abby. Thanking everyone for joining in this session. It's been lovely sharing this experience with you, and I hope this has whetted your appetite to engage more and more with compassion as a way of being, because it is the thing that will be a life changer. It is a life changer.
And yes, it is a life changer. Thank you, Karen. And on that note, I'd like to wish you all a very successful and enjoyable conference. Please enjoy.